Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie. Today's video is going to take place over several different days. The first thing I'm going to do is give you an update on my seed starting, show you what started to grow and what sprouted. And then I am going to meet with Liz a little bit later on, and we're going to have an update on the seeds that she planted. Now I'm really excited about my lettuce and my mesclun. We got some good germination. We do have one little lanky guy who is reaching for the light, but I'm not too disappointed with this. Now, as you can see, the plants on the side would seem to have been reaching for the lights a little bit. I don't know if I'm really satisfied with the lights that I have. I think I'm going to head to Home Depot. I've been watching a couple of videos, especially with My Gardener, and I will link his video down at the bottom. And he discussed some lights that I found you can purchase at Home Depot that he really likes. I think I'm going to try those, and I'll show you the results of those later. Now here's the results of the germination of my other seedlings. The first ones here, I have some cabbage, then we have broccoli, kale, and then the very last row is chard that hasn't made its appearance yet. It's only been a week, and I've heard those take about 14 days to germinate. But we had some okay germination on the chard. I'm not too happy about that. It looks like it's about a half germinated. These little babies right here are trying to germinate. They're not doing so hot. We had a little bit better germination on the cabbage. And we've got a little guy laying down on the broccoli. We had 2 cells not germinate there, but they also seem to be getting a little lanky. So I am going to update my lights. And I will show you what I end up with in the next few days here. So here we have my seed setup. I've actually transplanted everything except for the Swiss chard. The Swiss chard, let me show you what happened with that. For some reason, we only had one come up, but I put the dome back over the top and we had another one show up. So I'm hoping not to cook the ones that came up and to coax the other ones to sprout. The lettuce is actually looking really good. This is a lettuce mesclun mix, and I think I'm going to give it one more week and then I might be ready to do my first cutting. I'm really excited about this. As you can see, the light setup has changed. The old lights that I had, which were these, did not work out very well. As you can see, there's some lanky plants in there. But I did find these new lights, and they were suggested on My Gardener. This is the brand. And they seem to be doing a lot better. I might have them a little bit high, but I'm just going to keep trying and figure out the way it works best for my setup. 3 of them were not enough, but once I added one of my old lights, it seems to be working really well now. So let's head over to Progressive Plants and check in with Liz. I hope you guys can see us both, but welcome back to Garden Wise Adventures. Today we're back with Liz Hamilton, and unfortunately that beautiful video we did where we planted all the wonderful stuff for the winter, it's Cameron's fault. We're blaming Cameron, but somehow it disappeared out of his greenhouse. I don't know what he was trying to do.
He stole them.
He's the culprit. It's gone. Everything's gone.
The small one.
Okay. Anyway, so we're starting over. And that's okay because we didn't get any seed planting videotaped anyway. So let's turn things over to Liz and learn something today.
Okay, so seed starting take 2. Today we're working on some tomatoes and peppers because that's about what needs to be seeded right now. It depends on how warm your area is and how much sunlight you're getting as to how early you should start, because that's going to affect where and how large your tomatoes are by the time you're at a frost-free date where you can plant. And so right now, for most of you, tomatoes and peppers are pretty much ready to go. Peppers for sure, tomatoes could give or take, depending on your location and your environment.
Now, I had a quick question. I've heard that some peppers take longer to start than others.
Yeah, so generally anything chili wise, so when the peppers come up off the plant like this, it's considered a chili, and when they hang down,
Okay.
it's just a pepper. And so chilies tend to take way longer. A really good example of that is habaneros is like super long season. That's like 120, 130 days to growth. And I mean, when I was farming, it was ideal conditions. We were growing on black plastic in full sun with directly watering the roots with drip irrigation, and we were still like right to the very, I mean, the bushes were healthy, everything looked great, and they were huge by the end of the season, but the ripening process
Didn't have
took
time,
way
no.
late, and that also affects like the germination process. So like bringing that up, getting it out into the field, the growing time to eventual harvest, we were pushing like the first week of October for
Oh, wow.
for ripe red habanero peppers.
So if we're doing banana peppers or like paprika, that's going to be counted as regular peppers then, not the extra long
and
season.
I find those, they're still slow to germinate and slow to mature, but they tend to not have such a long to ripeness date, and I'm not sure why that is, just genetics, I guess, but
Okay.
they are faster in general to mature.
Okay, perfect. So now last time we were able to catch video on all the preparation to start planting the seeds, you know, what soil to use, you know, to moisten the things before, the soil before.
Right.
But we didn't see how you actually plant the seeds. So let's see if we can get into that.
So there's lots of different ways to plant. You can do like in a plug tray. So this is what a plug tray is, and this is Cameron's seed from his greenhouse. But a plug tray has, this is a 200 cell, it looks like, and so it has 200 tiny small cells, and they're individually seeded into those cells. And what's nice about that is you can pop those cells out, and then you can upplant those into bigger and bigger pots as you go through. And I think what we didn't catch last time is the explanation for that. And the reason you start small and you pot higher and higher as you go is because you're trying to control root moisture and the environmental conditions that it's in. If you take a really, really small seed like a snapdragon or a petunia, for example, or a foxglove, and you try to take that and put it in a big pot like this, that seed's gone. It's not like it's buried itself in there, and then you're trying to keep this whole thing watered for an itty bitty teeny tiny seed, and you're overwatering it basically, because by the time the top's evaporated, the bottom's still wet, and you're creating conditions that draw on fungus gnats or fungus itself and things like that. So we start small and then we go bigger and bigger, because you want the right pot for the right size root for the right plant at the right time to get the healthiest plant possible. And yes, it's more work, but you're going to end up with healthier plants, bigger plants, and a higher success rate in terms of seeding on your own.
Okay, perfect.
So exceptions to that are going to be large seeded plants. So for example, these were probably really, those are Cleomes over there, so they're quite tiny. But today, since we're going to work with tomatoes and things like that, you can start them in a little bit larger pot because they grow so quickly and the root becomes so big so fast. You don't really need to start small. You can, and it would be fine, but you can probably skip this step with tomatoes unless you have a moisture issue, like if you're in a kind of a darker room that's not super warm and things don't evaporate quickly. I would still encourage you to go in like a small plug tray, but because we're in ideal conditions in a greenhouse, I can direct seed in here and I know I'm going to have success. If that makes sense. So.
Okay, so let's see really quickly.
So
Here,
this
we'll
is
just
a
come up
seeding
in
mixture.
closer.
I've pre-moistened the soil so that when so that I don't need to water these in right away. And then these misters that are above us will water them on a timer. So I'm pre-moistening. And these are 6 plug tray packs here. And I have a couple different things today. So I have Jetstar.
I actually went and purchased those because I've been desperately searching for a tomato that I really like.
Yeah, so I really like Jetstar. They are really kind of classic semi-indeterminate, which means they get big, but they're not bushy exactly. And I tend to have huge yields on these, like 50 pounds upward of per plant.
Wow.
These come from Harris, and they are pre-treated.
Oh, wow.
So they're pre-treated with it. That's why the shiny green. So they're pre-treated with an antifungal. It depends on the company, but these don't cost any extra. Some come pre-treated, some do not, depending on who you order from. I ordered from Harris, these in particular, and Harris does sell to the home grower. They own a side company called Garden Trends, and so they sell to the home grower out of Garden Trends on small packages like this. But you can buy from Harris directly, my wholesale pricing, wholesale seeds, and so that's sometimes a little bit cheaper.
Yeah,
And then
I
usually
actually did
if you're
that.
Wholesale seeding,
Yeah.
you can get them treated.
I didn't find the Jetstar on Harris seeds, but I found some banana peppers and a bunch of other stuff. And
Yep.
I just went directly to their site.
So with tomatoes, I'm just gonna make a small well with my finger in my pre-moistened seed starting mix. And
so how deep are you planting that?
these are not very deep, probably like 1/4 of an inch. So, and then I just lightly, I'm not pressing the soil down because I don't want to obstruct new roots and root growth. I'm just really gently gonna put that in. And if you get 2, that's fine. They will, you just thin them later. No big
Perfect.
deal. So that was my Jetstar. I also have Aleppo peppers. These are seeds that I saved from a project. Aleppo peppers come from Aleppo, Syria. They're actually considered threatened on like the heritage breed
Wow.
site. So it's really hard to get seeds initially. And then when I got them, we got them through like a seed saving project, which was pretty cool. And when I got them, I save seeds every year. From when I dry them and make a ground red pepper sauce, Aleppo pepper paste.
That sounds
out of it.
really good.
It
Now,
is.
with saving seeds on peppers, because I know some seeds, when you save them, they don't come out true the next year, but these
Yeah.
are heritage seeds, you said,
Yeah,
right?
it's a heritage breed, and so I have saved seeds several years in a row and have not had issues.
Do you have to worry about them? Do you grow other peppers? Do they cross-pollinate?
They will, and you should worry about them. None of my neighbors grow vegetables, so that's maybe part of why I'm successful in that endeavor. But the other thing is that I grow chilies in the front yard and Aleppos in the backyard, and that seems to
Okay.
There's no scientific basis for that. Technicality says 1 mile apart. If you're
Yeah.
going to save seeds for to be sold on the market again, I don't have a mile's worth of yard, so I do front and back, and it works out for me every year. I've never had anything crossed that has come up from these particular seeds.
So I guess the long and short of it is, if you want true success and you're worried about cross-pollination, keep it a mile or protect your plants. But just go ahead and try, because you never know what happens.
Yep. This is a Ananas Noir, or like black banana, I think that translates into. It's a tomato, and these are seeds I saved from last year.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, and this is probably my favorite tomato.
So
They're-
is it a paste tomato? Is it?
Nope, it's like a big, meaty, beefy heirloom. And I'm going to sow these 2 per hole just because I want to make sure I definitely get germination. And because I saved them, there's definitely possibility of error.
Okay, now I notice when you're planting them, 2 of them, you're planting them separate. So just in case, so can you separate them at the end?
So if I decide I want to separate them at the end, their roots are easier to tease apart instead of making 1 hole and putting 2 in the 1 hole and then having to choose which one lives and dies. Because I can't extract their roots. If I do it this way, then I can easily separate them before they get too big. Usually. It's not always the case. Or if only 1 comes up, then it doesn't matter anyway. But this system has worked really well for me. So Jetstar, my Cossack Red, Ananas Noir, my favorite heirloom, Aleppo peppers, and what else do I have? Okay, so these are all that's left because our other seeds got thrown away of red roselle.
Oh,
red
yeah.
roselle hibiscus, which is
I think that was the one I was worried the most about.
I know, this is all that's left. You can always buy more seed. You just, sometimes the seed is hard to come by, or like, for example, and I think we might have talked about this on the last video, like I've ordered these from Baker Creek in the past, and half the package was, in fact, roselle, but the other half was Grandpa Ott Morning Glory.
Okay.
So, and the seeds did look different. As you can tell, they're a large seed, so you don't need to worry about, you know, making sure that they have like a small room to grow like you would with a foxglove or whatever. These are going to come up just fine in the large cells because they'll germinate quickly, they'll put out a root quickly, and they grow really fast.
And just so that I can say it, we do not blame Cameron. He just had some employees that were trying to do their jobs. He really does care. Look, this is more of Liz's stuff, and he put a sign on it this time. So we'll probably have to put a sign on this one too, because I don't want Liz losing those red roselle seeds.
I'll buy more. And then, so that was all that I was really seeding today, and then I just brought. These are cuttings. So we did talk cuttings last time, but those were cactus, and I don't know. These are a little bit different. So just in case anybody was wondering, these little like 2-inch pots are from the dollar store, and you can buy them in a set of 20 for $1, and they work great for one season. You can't keep these because they're pretty.
Well, they're flimsy, huh?
But anything works well. You can use little Dixie Solo cups with the hole poked in the bottom. Just anything to get them started. Plants aren't finicky, especially if they already have roots.
Look at the roots. Let's see the roots here.
This is a little bud base.
So how did you do this?
So I have 3 cuttings in here, and this is a type of wandering Jew, or Tradescantia is the Latin name, and it's a variegated one, and they were really expensive when I bought them, and I put them in pots and have them trail over hanging baskets. Some people use them as an indoor house plant too, but I use them outside. And
isn't that gorgeous?
Yeah, that's really pretty. And they were just really expensive, and so I thought at the end of the season when the frost was coming in and I knew it was my last chance, I just took some snippings and thought, well, I'll just save them. And so they put them in a bud vase, and they've been sitting there since September, whenever our last frost was. And so you can kind of see.
Those are really long roots.
This one doesn't quite have. I cut him off later. He was a shoot off one of these, but he's already starting to kind of form some roots on there. So this is where you have root primordia, and they get these little nubbins, and then from those nubbins, these will be roots.
Okay.
And then.
So you're just going to leave that in water a little longer, or?
Yeah, that one maybe I'll keep in water. So this one, you can see it was a shoot off. And these guys are pretty darn resilient.
Look at that.
So I have 2 cuttings today that I can root out.
That one's really healthy. That one has a little less roots, but that one should grow.
Yep,
right?
it will grow just fine.
I love it.
This one I'll put back in my bud vase. And honestly, like I could probably root this guy out and he would, or just stick him in a pot and he would be just fine. But I'm trying to have 0 room for error. So. Put too much dirt in. So I'm gonna get him in there and get his roots all the way down.
Let's see what it looks like inside.
In the pot, because he has a large enough root system.
Yep. Okay, so you just emptied out all the dirt and you just stuck them right in there.
Yep. And I'm just using Miracle Grow. No, I don't sponsor them. It's just easy to have, and it already has fertilizer in it, and that's the simplest way. So then I just put dirt in it.
That is easy.
Easy and just fine. Yep.
And you just saved yourself a bunch of money.
Yep, exactly. It's $10. So this one, because I don't have as big a root system, I'll fill it a little bit with dirt and just kind of coil those roots in there so that they're ready to go. And then I'll fill the rest of the way up with dirt all the way around. Just right there.
Perfect.
And then I'll water these in so that we avoid some root stress. It is always a little bit harder when roots are coming from a full water environment as a cutting to going to dirt.
Right.
Especially, so you kind of got to keep them a little bit heavily watered initially to avoid the shock.
So like what percentage of success do you find doing that? Do you find very many failures at all doing it that way, or?
No, I find pretty good success rates doing it that
Okay,
way.
perfect. So I guess I was just wondering, how many do you start, and then how many do you think you're going to get? You pretty much assume you're going to have as many as you've started, right?
Yeah, I do, but I'm not finicky. If
Look
they
at the
die-
roots on those.
Yeah, so this is citronella, which some of you may, it can also be kind of expensive. It's usually $10 as an annual. So I plant it, I let my plants get huge. Usually by the end of my season, they're about 4 foot tall if I plant them in ground and not in a pot. And then every year I take cuttings off of it right before the first fall, and I throw them in a little bud vase like that one, and they root out.
Now, if you live in California, I used to grow hundreds of these. I loved
Yeah.
them. It wasn't just citronella. There was a ton of scented geraniums, and I would just break off pieces and just shove them in the ground, and I would have almost 100% success rate doing it that way.
Yep.
There's a few of them that were a little more tender, a few varieties, but most of them survived.
So I'm just gonna make a well with my finger, and then we're just gonna
Shove them right in there.
shove them in. Yep. And make sure they stay. And I will water these in so that they'll, I think I said that, so that they won't shock, and that they'll be a little bit more sturdy. You can tell that pot's a little bit small, but I'll upsize it one more time before summer.
Yeah, get it started in the soil there.
They smell really good. I'll also probably pinch them back once so that they get bushy.
Yeah.
Cut them so that they branch. That's what I mean by pinching back. And these root super easy. I do use rooting hormone.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
Just because,
It's just an extra layer of.
yeah, I find with most plants, I get bigger roots faster if I use rooting hormone than if I just
Okay.
stuff a cutting in water.
And you can buy rooting hormone at basically any
Anywhere.
garden center, right?
Yeah. Any garden center, even like Lowe's and Home Depot usually carry them, which is surprising.
And it's not expensive.
So this one hasn't quite rooted out yet, but I'm gonna pot it up anyway today. But I just thought I'd show you the root primordia. So these little white spots are where the roots are beginning to form.
Yeah, and that'll root up in the soil.
Yeah,
even.
and they're what you call advantageous rooters. So some plants you have to plant right up to where the roots begin to form, because if you plant any deeper, that crown will rot. These plants are advantageous rooters, kind of like a tomato. You may have heard that, where you plant deep, and then the plant will form roots anywhere that it's touching soil, and that's advantageous rooting. So
And they're
you have to
healthy
know-
roots, not the bad advantageous roots, like
Yeah.
if you plant a tree too deep or something.
Yep, and these will be just fine from that. One more.
Okay, perfect. Now I've got to head off to do a pruning class that I'm going to be videotaping. And Liz is heading up to Cameron's class. Cameron's doing a what's new, or what is his class? It's
His what's new today.
what's new today. Yeah, new plants that are coming out this year.
Yep.
I would have loved to videotape that one, but maybe he'll have another one and I can go film that one for him. There it goes. And before we leave, so for your tomatoes and peppers, if you're going to upsize them, how do you know when it's time?
So they'll be root bound. You'll be able to see the roots coming out of the bottom of the pot.
Okay.
They dry out really quickly because the roots are sucking that moisture out of the soil really fast. And so you're having to water several times a day. They start to get leggy, or because remember, seed starting, a lot of, not all, seed starting mixes don't have added fertilizer. So there's zero fertilizer in them. And so the leaves may start to yellow because
Okay.
they're not actually getting enough nutrients, and that's when you need to upsize your pot.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for doing this today. So maybe we can do one more video when it's time to upsize.
Yeah, we'll follow up and kind of show you guys the process all the way through.
And this time Cameron's employees aren't going to do such a good job and clean out the greenhouse so well. They'll be in the run it. So anyway, go have a wonderful garden adventure, and I'm excited for spring.
Yep, get started.
Well, it's been another week since I went to visit Liz at Progressive Plants for my second seed starting video. And I just wanted to show you an update on what my seedlings are doing. I'm really happy with them. Okay, here's my lettuce seedlings. I think it's time to cut them and make a salad. I'm really excited to do that. They are a little weak. I'm not exactly sure with what's going on this side. Let me see if I can get a better view of them. This side seems to be doing really well. Maybe it's the difference in lights. We're living and learning. These are my little cabbage seedlings. They seem to be doing well. The Frenchy cells are broccoli. Then we've got kale. And we finally got chard to sprout. So we have 2 little chards in the back right there. And then these are the rest of my chard seedlings that sprouted. So I'm really excited. So now the next phase is going to be learning when to transplant them outside and how to do that. So I may do a follow-up video with Liz, or I may look at some more online YouTube videos, but I will update you on when I'm going to put those outside. Right now we're having a snowstorm, so today is definitely not the day. I figure I'll wait probably about another week, maybe even 2. I might wait till the second week in March. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, let me know how your seedlings are doing, and go have a wonderful garden adventure, and we'll see you in the next video.